The unexpected arrival. The headache arrived before consciousness, pounding through Dr. Elena Vasquez's skull like a malfunctioning gravity generator. She groaned, keeping her eyes firmly shut against the artificial dawn filtering through her quarters on Station Meridian. The air tasted wrong, metallic and sweet, with undertones of something floral she couldn't identify. Her hand reached across the mattress, searching for the edge of her narrow bunk, and found warmth instead. Smooth skin, definitely not standard-issue bedding. Her eyes snapped open. Above her, the observation dome framed the Helix Nebula in swirls of cosmic dust and newborn stars. Beautiful, serene, and completely at odds with the fact that there were two women in her bed. To her left lay someone with skin the color of deep purple twilight. Not painted or tattooed, but naturally luminescent. Her hair cascaded in waves of midnight blue, and her features were delicate yet distinctly non-human. The shape of her eyes, the slight point to her jaw, the way her breathing seemed to resonate with a rhythm Elena had never heard before. To her right, a human woman with copper-red hair and freckles scattered across her shoulders slept peacefully. Elena recognized her immediately. Lyra Thorne, daughter of Ambassador Thorne, one of the diplomatic attachés who'd arrived 2 weeks ago. Elena's brain offered exactly one coherent thought. What did I do? She tried to reconstruct the previous evening. There'd been a reception in the diplomatic wing, mandatory attendance for senior science staff. She remembered standing near the refreshment station, nursing something that sparkled like liquid starlight. Then someone had offered her a crystal cup filled with golden wine that shimmered with its own internal light. After that, everything became fragments. Music that seemed to vibrate through her bones, laughter, dancing, which was impossible because Elena never danced, and warmth. Incredible warmth, like standing in sunlight for the first time after years underground. The purple-skinned woman stirred, rolling toward her. Her eyes opened, revealing irises that shifted between violet and indigo like oil on water. She looked at Elena and smiled with genuine contentment. "Good morning, Elena," she said, her voice carrying harmonics that made the words feel like music. She knew Elena's name. That was either wonderful or catastrophic. "Morning," she croaked, her throat dry. I'm sorry, I don't remember." "I'm Zara," the woman offered, propping herself up on one elbow. The movement revealed she was wearing one of Elena's lab coats, absurdly oversized and rolled up at the sleeves. "You don't remember last night?" "I remember the reception," she said carefully, trying not to wake Lyra. "And I remember someone handing me wine." Zara's smile widened. "That wasn't just wine. That was Catherine. Ceremonial bonding wine from my home world. Very sacred, very potent, and apparently very effective on humans." Elena sat up too quickly and her head spun. She was still wearing her formal dress from the reception, though someone had removed her shoes. On her left palm was something that definitely hadn't been there yesterday. A small crystal, smooth and seamless, embedded just beneath the skin and pulsing with soft bioluminescent light. She noticed, with growing dread, identical crystals on both women's palms. "What is this?" she asked slowly, holding up her hand. Lyra chose that moment to wake. Her green eyes opened and she stretched with cat-line grace. When she spoke, her voice was warm with amusement. "That would be proof that you have terrible impulse control when presented with alien ceremonial wine." "Bonding wine," Elena repeated, the word sticking in her throat. "Bonding wine," Zara confirmed cheerfully. "You were very enthusiastic about it. You said, and I quote, 'This is the most incredible thing I've ever experienced. I want to share this with everyone.'" Elena's face went hot. "I don't remember saying that." "You also sang," Lyra added helpfully. something about cosmic destiny and souls recognizing each other across the stars. It was actually quite beautiful. "I don't sing," Elena protested weakly. "You do when you've had enough, Catherine," Zara said, reaching out to pat Elena's hand with obvious affection. The touch sent a ripple of warmth through Elena's palm, radiating from the embedded crystal. Through that touch, Elena suddenly felt something extraordinary, emotions that weren't her own. Zara's contentment, bright and clear. Lyra's amusement, tinged with genuine fondness. And underneath both, something deeper, a connection that thrummed like a living thing between the three of them. "Oh no," Elena whispered. "What have I done?" "You have bonded with us," Lyra said gently, sitting up and taking Elena's other hand. "For one lunar cycle, we are connected, empathically. It's considered a great honor in Zara's culture. And you participated willingly, very willingly. You practically demanded we perform the ceremony." Elena's comm panel chimed with an incoming message. The display showed it was flagged urgent. "Report to Commander Hayes immediately. Cultural incident requires your presence." "I think," Elena said, looking at the two women in her bed, at the matching crystals pulsing in their palms, and at her tiny quarters that were definitely not designed for 3 people, "I'm going to need coffee. A lot of coffee." "We don't drink coffee," Zara said. "I wasn't asking," Elena muttered. Outside the dome, the Helix Nebula continued its eternal expansion. Indifferent to the fact that Dr. Elena Vasquez's carefully controlled life had just become infinitely more complicated. And somewhere in the station's depths, the morning shift alarm began to wail.
The investigation begins. Commander Marcus Hayes stared at his coffee synthesizer with the kind of intensity usually reserved for approaching asteroid fields. The machine had chosen this morning, of all mornings, to produce something that looked like recycled lubricant. He was contemplating whether to report it or simply throw it out an airlock, when his comm panel lit up with an urgent flag. "Cultural incident. Xenobiologist Vasquez. Immediate attention required." Marcus dumped the synthesizer's attempted coffee and headed for his office, already composing incident reports in his head. He'd been station commander for 7 years, 7 peaceful, productive years. The alien delegation had been aboard for 2 weeks, and he'd started to hope they'd complete the cultural exchange without problems. Apparently, the universe disagreed. His office door opened to reveal a scene that would have been amusing if it weren't potentially career-ending. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood in front of his desk looking like she'd fought with a hangover and lost. Flanking her were 2 women, one with purple skin that seemed to glow with inner light, the other a human he recognized as Ambassador Thorne's daughter. Both wore expressions of calm amusement that made Marcus's stress level spike. "Commander," Elena began, her voice slightly hoarse, "I think there's been a situation." "You think?" Marcus moved behind his desk, needing the barrier between himself and whatever diplomatic nightmare was unfolding. "Someone want to explain why my morning briefing includes the words cultural incident in capital letters?" The purple-skinned woman, Zara, according to his mental files, spoke first. "There has been no incident, Commander. Everything proceeded according to tradition." "What tradition?" Marcus asked, though he suspected he wouldn't like the answer. "The Catherine ceremony," Zara explained, as if this clarified everything. "A bonding ritual from my people. 3 participants share ceremonial wine that creates a temporary empathic link. It's considered sacred." "Sacred," Marcus repeated flatly. His eyes dropped to their hands, where identical crystals pulsed with soft light beneath the skin. "And how temporary is temporary?" "1 lunar cycle," Lyra Thorne said, 28 days. After that, the participants can choose to make the bond permanent or allow it to dissolve naturally. Marcus tapped his comm panel. "Get me Dr. Julian Cross, now." While they waited, uncomfortable silence filled the office. Elena kept glancing at the 2 women, then at her palm, where the crystal caught the overhead lighting. Through the viewport behind Marcus's desk, the Helix Nebula painted space in shades of rose and turquoise. Dr. Julian Cross arrived within minutes, still wearing his breakfast on his lab coat, some kind of protein supplement that the synthesizers claimed was nutritious. He was young for the station's chief botanist, enthusiastic, and had spent the last 2 weeks cataloging every aspect of the alien delegation's biology with academic fervor. "Oh," he said, looking at the crystals. "Oh, wow." "Explain," Marcus ordered. Julian pulled up a holographic display, his fingers dancing through menus. The Catherine ceremony uses a psychoactive compound derived from a crystalline fungus native to Zara's homeworld. It's not just wine, it's a complex neurochemical cocktail that temporarily rewires neural pathways to create empathic resonance between participants. "Empathic resonance," Elena said quietly. "So we can feel each other's emotions?" "More than that," Julian said, his excitement barely contained. "You can sense each other's presence, share perceptions to some degree, and even communicate non-verbally under the right conditions. It's fascinating from a neurological standpoint." "Fascinating isn't the word I'd use," Marcus muttered. "Can it be reversed?" Julian's enthusiasm dimmed. "Not without potentially harming all 3 participants. The bond creates new neural pathways. Forcing dissolution before the natural endpoint could cause severe neurological damage." "So we're stuck like this for a month?" Elena said, and through some trick of the bond, Marcus could have sworn he felt her anxiety radiating across the room. Before anyone could respond, Marcus's comm panel lit up again. This time, the message made his stomach sink. Inspector Nathaniel Caldwell from the Colonial Oversight Committee had just arrived on station 3 weeks ahead of schedule. "Perfect," Marcus said. "Just perfect." The door chimed. Inspector Caldwell entered without waiting for permission, his sharp features arranged in an expression of professional skepticism. He wore the standard gray uniform of the Oversight Committee, and his eyes immediately locked onto the 3 women. "Commander Hayes, I've reviewed the preliminary reports. A human scientist bonded to 2 members of an alien delegation. This presents significant security concerns." "Inspector," Marcus began, but Caldwell raised a hand. "Dr. Vasquez, I'll need to conduct a full examination. Neural scans, psychological evaluation, complete review of your access protocols." "On what grounds?" Lyra stepped forward, her diplomatic training evident in her posture. "My father is Ambassador Thorne. I have full diplomatic immunity, as does Zara. This ceremony was conducted legally under interspecies treaty provisions." "Diplomatic immunity doesn't extend to security breaches," Caldwell said. "A human scientist with access to classified research now linked to alien nationals?" "I study plant genetics," Elena interrupted, finding her voice despite the situation. "The most classified thing in my lab is an experimental strain of tomatoes. I'm not a security risk." "That's not your determination to make," Caldwell said. Zara's hand found Elena's. The touch sent warmth flooding through her arm, and suddenly she felt it. Zara's protective fury, directed entirely at the inspector. Lyra took Elena's other hand, her emotions cooler but equally fierce. "Inspector Caldwell," Zara said, her voice carrying harmonics that made the air vibrate slightly. "I am a cultural liaison for the Intergalactic Council. Lyra is the daughter of your own ambassador. We are not security threats. We are diplomats who participated in a sacred ceremony with a willing partner." "Willing?" Caldwell's eyebrow rose. "I understand Dr. Vasquez was intoxicated." "I was," Elena admitted, "but that doesn't mean I didn't consent. Apparently, I was very enthusiastic about it." "You sang about cosmic destiny," Lyra said helpfully, "for approximately 20 minutes. Marcus pinched his bridge of his nose. This was going to be a very long month. "Nevertheless," Caldwell continued, "I'm implementing protective protocols. All 3 individuals will undergo daily medical monitoring. Any unusual symptoms must be reported immediately. And Dr. Vasquez," the station's emergency klaxon cut through his words. Red lights began pulsing in the corridor outside. "Radiation leak detected in Agricultural Sector 7, the station AI announced. All personnel evacuate. Emergency containment teams to stations." Marcus was already moving toward the door. "Julian, Get to the containment lab. Elena. I'm coming with you, Elena said. Agricultural 7 is my sector. We're coming too, Zara added, still holding Elena's hand. Caldwell opened his mouth to protest, but Marcus cut him off. We'll continue this discussion later. Right now, we have a crisis. They ran. Crisis on Deck 7. The agricultural sector had been Elena's domain for 3 years. She knew every hydroponic bay, every environmental control, every maintenance access point, which made it even more terrifying when she arrived to find her carefully cultivated gardens bathed in the sickly yellow glow of radiation warnings. Emergency teams were already evacuating personnel. Dr. Julian Cross met them at the containment threshold, his face pale behind his hazard visor. It's bad. Something breached the primary shielding around a quantum fertilizer matrix. We're reading gamma radiation at dangerous levels. How long until we have to evacuate the entire sector? Commander Hayes demanded. 20 minutes, maybe less. If it reaches the main environmental systems, we'll have to vent the entire section to space. Elena's heart sank. 3 years of research. Experimental crops that could revolutionize food production on colony worlds. Gone. Then she felt it, a ripple through the bond. Zara had gone very still beside her, her purple skin seeming to darken as her eyes fixed on the holographic radiation display. Her ears, slightly pointed and elegant, twitched as if hearing sounds beyond human perception. Zara, Elena asked quietly. The radiation pattern, Zara murmured. It's not random. There's a harmonic structure to it, like a frequency being broadcast. Julian pulled up additional sensor data. What do you mean? Instead of answering, Zara moved toward the main display. Her hand reached out, fingers spread, not quite touching the hologram. Through the bond, Elena felt something extraordinary. Zara's vast, intuitive perception of energy patterns and Lyra's precise analytical mind beginning to process solutions. Can you see where the resonance is strongest? Elena asked Zara. Yes, Zara breathed, but seeing it doesn't stop it. What if we could disrupt the harmonic? Lyra said, pulling up a calculator interface. Create a counter-frequency that cancels the amplification. The station's radiation dampeners aren't designed for that kind of precision, Julian said. Elena looked at the display, then at her 2 bonded partners. Through the link, she could feel both their minds working, Zara identifying the patterns, Lyra calculating solutions. And between them, she felt herself the bridge that connected their different approaches. What if we use the agricultural systems? Elena said suddenly. The quantum fertilizer matrix operates on specific frequencies to accelerate plant growth. If we can retune it— You want to use farming equipment to stop a radiation leak? Commander Hayes asked. I want to use our most sophisticated quantum manipulation technology to create a counter-frequency, Elena corrected. Julian, can the matrix handle that kind of recalibration? In theory, Julian said slowly, but we'd need to calculate the exact frequencies, and we have maybe 15 minutes? We can do it, Lyra said with absolute certainty. Her hand found Elena's, and through the bond, Elena felt Lyra's confidence flowing into her. Zara took Elena's other hand. Show me your systems. What happened next was something Elena would never be able to fully explain. With Zara's guiding them to the exact harmonic frequencies and Lyra's mathematical precision calculating the counterwave patterns, Elena dove into her agricultural control systems with a clarity she'd never experienced before. Through the bond, she felt everything. Zara's vast awareness of the energy flows, seeing the radiation like visible light, tracking every fluctuation. Lyra's mind working through equations at impossible speed, her thoughts precise as laser cuts, and her own knowledge of the systems, years of experience flowing through her hands as she rerouted power, adjusted frequencies, and turned her farming equipment into a precision radiation dampener. Recalibrating matrix nodes, she announced. Julian, I need you to monitor the radiation levels. On it. Elena's fingers flew across the controls. She could feel Zara and Lyra with her, their presence as real as physical touch. Zara would identify a harmonic spike, Lyra would calculate the counter frequency, and Elena would implement it through her systems. Radiation dropping to 90%, Julian called out. Keep going, Commander Hayes said. The three women worked in perfect synchronization. Elena's hands found patterns in the interface she'd never noticed before, guided by Zara's perception. Mathematical solutions appeared in her mind, floating from Lyra's calculations through the bond. 75%. 60%. The contamination warnings began to fade from red to yellow. 40%. 25%. Radiation levels returning to normal, Julian announced, his voice filled with disbelief. Containment holding. The feedback loop is broken. The agricultural sector's emergency lighting shifted from yellow back to standard white. The crisis was over. Elena slumped against her console, exhausted. Through the bond, she felt Zara and Lyra's fatigue matching her own, but underneath it was something else: satisfaction, pride, and a deep sense of connection that came from working together perfectly. Commander Hayes looked at the three of them, then at Inspector Caldwell. Still think they are a security risk? Caldwell's expression was unreadable. I think this situation requires further investigation, but not quarantine. It wasn't much, but it was something.
Growing connections. Elena's quarters had been expanded after the crisis, though expanded was a generous term. Station maintenance had combined her original 12 square meters with an adjacent storage unit, creating a space that was less comfortable living area and more organized chaos with beds. "This is cozy," Lyra said, surveying their new accommodations with diplomatic optimism. "This is a closet with delusions of grandeur," Elena muttered, trying to figure out where to put her research files now that 2/3 of her storage had been reallocated. Zara was already exploring, her purple fingers trailing over every surface. She stopped at Elena's workstation, tilting her head with curiosity. "Your computer network feels lonely." "My what?" "Your artificial intelligence system," Zara clarified. "It reaches out, searching for connection. Don't you feel it?" Elena looked at her terminal, which appeared completely normal. "I think you're projecting." The terminal screen flickered, displaying a simple message. "Thank you for noticing." "Okay," Elena said slowly. "That's new." Lyra laughed from where she was unpacking containers of personal belongings. "Zara's people have an unusual relationship with technology. They perceive it as semi-sentient." "Because it is," Zara said matter-of-factly, "just not in the way humans define sentience." Elena decided not to argue with that particular philosophical rabbit hole. Instead, she focused on the more immediate concern of three people learning to share a space designed for one. The sleeping platform that maintenance had installed was exactly as uncomfortable as it looked. 3 mattresses bolted together with all the elegance of emergency repairs. But when they finally settled onto it that first night, Elena discovered something unexpected. The bond made proximity feel natural. She could sense Zara on her left, Lyra on her right, and their presence wasn't intrusive. It was like being wrapped in warm blankets on a cold station night. "Tell me about your work," Zara asked softly in the darkness. "What's you do with plants?" Elena found herself explaining her research, how she was developing crop strains that could grow in extreme conditions, that could help feed colony worlds where traditional agriculture failed. She talked about genetic modifications, environmental adaptations, the delicate balance between innovation and stability. Through the bond, she felt their genuine interest, not polite attention, but real fascination. "On my world, we grow crystals instead of plants, living crystals that sing when they mature. The gardens are like orchestras, each crystal contributing its own note to the harmony." "That sounds beautiful," Elena whispered. "It is," Zara agreed. "But your work is beautiful too. creating life in places where it shouldn't exist. That's its own kind of music. Lyra's hand found Elena's in the darkness. I grew up on Earth, but my mother was from the colony worlds. She used to tell me about the first harvests, how they celebrated each successful crop like a victory. Your work continues that legacy. Something warm bloomed in Elena's chest, spreading through the bond until she wasn't sure where her feelings ended and theirs began. The days developed their own rhythm. Elena would wake early, sandwiched between her two bonded partners, and lie still for a few minutes, just feeling their presence through the link. Zara's emotions were like colors, bright and shifting. Lyra's were more subtle, layered and complex. Breakfast became an adventure in compromise. Elena liked coffee strong enough to strip paint. Zara preferred something that looked like liquid moonlight and tasted faintly of vanilla. Lyra drank tea with enough honey to concern dental professionals. "We're going to need a bigger beverage station," Elena announced after the third morning of shuffling drinks around their tiny counter. "Or we could share," Lyra suggested, offering Elena a sip of her overly sweet tea. Elena tried it and immediately regretted everything. "That's not tea. That's liquid candy masquerading as a hot beverage. You're just bitter because you can't appreciate refined tastes," Lyra said, grinning. "I appreciate tastes that don't require insulin injections." Zara, meanwhile, had discovered that Elena's food synthesizer could produce something approximating her homeworld's cuisine if she spent 20 minutes recalibrating the molecular matrix. The result looked like purple gelatin with bioluminescent spots. "That's horrifying," Elena said. "Try it," Zara insisted, offering a spoonful. Through the bond, Elena could feel Zara's eager anticipation. She'd tried the purple gelatin. It tasted like starfruit mixed with something floral, and the texture was surprisingly pleasant. "Okay," Elena admitted, "that's actually good." Zara's delight flooded through the bond, warming Elena from the inside out. Work became collaborative. Elena would be analyzing crop data when she'd feel Zara's perception overlay her own, seeing patterns in the genetic sequences that her human eyes missed. Lyra would appear with coffee and observations about statistical anomalies, her mathematical mind spotting correlations Elena had overlooked. One afternoon, Elena found herself in the hydroponics bay with both of them, explaining the intricacies of photosynthesis to Zara, while Lyra calculated optimal light wavelengths. "Your planet's sun must have been different from Earth's," Elena mused, watching Zara examine a tomato plant with intense fascination. "Two suns, one red, one white. Our plants had to adapt to both wavelengths simultaneously. That's why our photosynthetic organisms developed crystalline structures to refract light efficiently." "That's brilliant," Elena breathed. "If I could incorporate crystalline structures into Earth crops, you'd revolutionize agricultural efficiency on binary star systems," Lyra finished. "Elena, that's actually genius." Through the bond, Elena felt their encouragement, their belief in her capabilities. It was intoxicating. Evenings were spent in the observation deck, the three of them watching the Helix Nebula while sharing stories. Zara talked about her homeworld, about crystal cities that sang in the wind, and oceans that glowed with bioluminescent life. Lyra described Earth, the planet Elena had left behind years ago, making Elena feel homesick for places she'd almost forgotten. "What made you come to the station?" Zara asked one night. Elena considered her answer. "I wanted to do something that mattered. On Earth, I was just another scientist in a lab. Here, my work could actually change lives on colony worlds, make difficult places livable." "And has it made you happy?" Lyra asked gently. Elena thought about her life before the bonding. Quiet, controlled, safe. Lonely. "It has now," she admitted. The bond hummed between them, carrying emotions that words couldn't quite capture. One night, Elena woke to find Zara sitting up, her purple skin glowing softly in the darkness. Through the bond, Elena felt her distress. "Bad dream?" Elena asked quietly, not wanting to wake Lyra. "Homesickness," Zara admitted.
I've been away from my world for 6 months. Sometimes I forget what the crystal songs sound like." Elena sat up, taking Zara's hand. "Can you share it with me, through the bond?" Zara's eyes widened. "I've never tried that before. Try now." Zara closed her eyes, and suddenly Elena heard it. Not with her ears, but through the bond. Crystalline harmonics, beautiful and alien, resonating through her mind like wind chimes made of starlight. "That's incredible," Elena whispered. Through the bond, she felt Zara's gratitude, her surprise at being understood. And then, hesitantly, Zara leaned in and kissed her. The kiss was gentle, questioning. Elena could feel Zara's nervousness through the bond, her hope that this was okay, that Elena wanted this too. Elena answered by kissing back, her hand cupping Zara's face. The purple skin was warm under her fingers, slightly textured in a way that felt exotic and right. They broke apart when Lyra stirred beside them. Her green eyes opened, and through the bond, Elena felt her awareness of what had just happened. "Don't stop on my account," she murmured, her husky voice with something else. Elena felt her face heat, but through the bond she could feel no jealousy from Lyra, only warmth, encouragement directed at both of them. "Come here," Elena said softly. Lyra shifted closer, and then Elena was kissing her too. Different from Zara, Lyra's kiss was confident, practiced, carrying the assurance of someone who knew what she wanted. When they finally settled back onto the sleeping platform, tangled together in a way that would have been awkward without the bond's guidance, Elena felt something shift inside her. This wasn't temporary. This wasn't just an accident caused by ceremonial wine. This was real. Through the bond, she felt Zara and Lyra's matching realizations, their own understanding that something profound was happening between them. "3 weeks left," Lyra whispered. "Then we have to decide." "I know." But lying there, feeling their heartbeats sinking through the bond, Elena was beginning to suspect that her decision was already made.
The choice. The call from her mother came at the worst possible time, which was to say, when Elena was trying to explain to Inspector Caldwell why her latest research data showed contamination from unknown crystalline influences. "It's not contamination," Elena said for the 3rd time. "It's intentional genetic modification using techniques from Zara's homeworld. Techniques that haven't been approved by the Colonial Oversight Committee," Caldwell said. "Techniques that are revolutionizing my understanding of photosynthetic efficiency," Elena countered. Her comm panel chimed with an incoming personal message. Her mother's contact information flashed on the screen. "Take it," Caldwell said with obvious annoyance. "We're done here anyway, but I want those procedures documented by end of shift." Elena waited until he left before accepting the call. Her mother's face appeared on the screen, older than Elena remembered, with gray threading through her dark hair. "Elena," her mother said, smiling, "I've been trying to reach you for days." "Sorry, Mom. Things have been complicated." "I heard," her mother said, and her expression shifted to something between amusement and concern. "Bonded to 2 women, one of them purple? Elena, even for you, that's traumatic." Elena felt her face heat. "How did you—" "Ambassador Thorne is an old friend. Lyra's my goddaughter, actually. She may have mentioned the situation." Of course. The universe was smaller than Elena liked to think. "Are you calling to lecture me?" Elena asked. "I'm calling to ask if you're happy," her mother said gently. Elena looked around her quarters. Zara was at the workstation, apparently having a deep conversation with the station AI about the nature of consciousness. Lyra was on the sleeping platform, surrounded by datapads, calculating something complex and muttering under her breath. Through the bond, she felt their presence, warm and constant. "Yeah," Elena said softly. "I think I am." "Then that's all that matters," her mother said, "though I do want to meet them properly when I visit next month." "You're coming here?" "Someone has to make sure these women know what they're getting into," her mother said with a smile. "Love you, sweetheart." The call ended,
And Elena sat for a moment, processing. Her mother's approval shouldn't matter so much. She was an adult, a respected scientist. But it did matter. And through the bond, she felt Zara and Lyra's understanding. The next 3 days passed in a blur. Elena's research progressed at an unprecedented rate, aided by Zara's unique perceptions and Lyra's analytical mind. They published a joint paper on crystalline-enhanced photosynthesis that had the scientific community buzzing. Commander Hayes called them into his office on day 26. "I have a proposition," he said without preamble. "The station needs a xenocultural liaison officer, someone who can bridge the gap between human and alien personnel, facilitate collaborative research, handle cultural integration." He looked at Elena. "I'm offering you the position." "I'm a botanist," Elena protested. "You're a botanist who saved the station using alien farming technology. You're living proof that collaboration works. Plus, you're bonded to a cultural liaison and a diplomat. You have built-in advisors." "We'd be happy to help," Lyra said beside Elena. "The position comes with better quarters," Hayes added, "and a significant pay increase. Think about it. I need an answer by tomorrow." Tomorrow was day 27, the day before the bond would reach its natural endpoint. That evening, they returned to the observation deck. The Helix Nebula blazed outside the viewport, beautiful and indifferent to human concerns. "We need to talk about tomorrow," Lyra said quietly. Elena's heart hammered in her chest. Through the bond, she felt both women's nervousness matching her own. "The formalization ceremony," Zara said, "if we choose to make the bond permanent. Or we can let it dissolve. No harm, no judgment. We return to our separate lives." Elena tried to imagine that, going back to her small quarters, working alone, sleeping without their presence beside her. The thought felt wrong, incomplete. I spoke to Torres. Torres was the station's chief xenoanthropologist, an expert in interspecies bonding. He explained what formalization means. Permanent empathetic connection. Lifelong partnership. In my culture, it's the deepest commitment possible. In human culture, it's basically marriage. Triadic marriage, but still. "I know," Elena said. Silence stretched between them, filled only with the soft hum of the station's life support systems. "I'm scared," Elena admitted. "What if this is just the bond talking? What if without the wine, without the empathetic connection, we wouldn't feel this way?" "We could say the same," Lyra pointed out. "What if you only feel this way because of the bond?" Through the link, Elena felt the question's weight. Were their feelings real or just chemical reactions enhanced by alien fungal wine? "I don't think it matters," Zara said suddenly. "Real is real. Chemistry is chemistry. Humans fall in love because of pheromones and neurotransmitters. Is that less real because you can explain the mechanism? My parents bonded the traditional way on my homeworld, with wine, with ceremony, with crystals embedded in their palms. They were together for 200 years. The bond didn't make them love each other. It just helped them understand each other better. My parents met at a party, got drunk, had a terrible first date, and then kept going back to each other until they figured it out. Is their love less real because alcohol was involved in the beginning?" Elena looked at both of them. Through the bond, she felt their honesty, their vulnerability. "I've spent my whole life being careful. Calculated risks, planned outcomes. I came to the station because it was a good career move. I focused on my work because relationships were complicated and unpredictable." She took both their hands. "But this is the most reckless, unplanned, completely unpredictable thing I've ever done, and I don't want it to end." Through the bond, she felt their joy, bright and overwhelming. "So, we do the ceremony?" "We do the ceremony." The formalization ceremony was scheduled for the next day at noon in the station's central atrium. Word had spread, and what Elena had hoped would be a small private affair had become somewhat of a station event. Commander Hayes attended, looking pleased with himself. Dr. Julian Cross was there with a scandalous amount of recording equipment for someone who was supposed to be a discreet witness. Even Inspector Caldwell showed up, standing in the back with an expression that might have been approval or might have been indigestion. Ambassador Thorne officiated, her silver hair elegantly arranged, her diploma robes shimmering under the atrium's lights. She spoke in both Standard and Zara's native language, words about choice and commitment, about bonds chosen freely and connections made consciously. When it was time for vows, Elena spoke in halting phrases from Zara's language first, the words clumsy in her mouth but sincere. Then in Standard, looking at both women, feeling the bond between them thrumming like electricity. I thought this was a mistake. I thought I'd drunk too much alien wine and made a fool of myself, but the mistake was thinking that love has to be planned, that connection has to make sense. You two crashed into my life, and instead of disaster, I found something I didn't know I needed. She felt tears on her cheeks and didn't care. I choose this, Elena said. I choose you both, every day, for as long as you'll have me. Zara's vows were poetry about starlight and crystalline songs, about finding harmony in unexpected places. Lyra's were precise and mathematical, calculating the probability of this working and concluding that, with sufficient commitment, the odds were in their favor. Both made Elena laugh through her tears. Ambassador Thorne pressed her palm to each of theirs in turn, and Elena felt the crystals embedded in their skin pulse in perfect synchronization. What was begun in chance is completed in choice. What was temporary becomes permanent. 3 notes become one sustained chord. The bond deepened, and Elena gasped at the intensity. It was like the first time, but more. Permanent pathways forming, connections that would last their lifetimes. Through it she felt everything. Zara's fierce joy, Lyra's deep contentment, her own wonder at how much life could change in 4 weeks. Later, in their newly expanded quarters, still not quite big enough, but home nonetheless, they collapsed on the sleeping platform in a tangle of limbs and contentment. So, Lyra said, Elena's taking the liaison position. I am, Elena confirmed. Someone has to keep you two out of trouble. We're not the ones who got drunk on ceremonial wine and proposed to strangers. I didn't propose, I sang about cosmic destiny. For 20 minutes, Lyra added helpfully. I hate both of you, Elena said, but she was smiling. Through the bond, she felt their affection wrapping around her like warmth. Outside their viewport, the Helix Nebula continued its eternal expansion. Indifferent to human concerns, alien ceremonies, or the small miracles that happened in